All right, let's dive right into it. Today, we're doing a deep dive explainer on what it's genuinely like to live with a modern performance sedan day in and day out. We're putting the Volkswagen Virtus GT squarely under the microscope. Look, we all know the dream, right? A sleek, powerful sedan that promises absolute driving joy. But what actually happens when that enthusiast dream collides with the reality of daily commutes, bumper to bumper traffic, and real world running costs? Well, let's find out. 11,000. That's the number of kilometers we're talking about here. This isn't just some quick weekend test drive based on fleeting first impressions. The data and the day-to-day experiences we're breaking down come from over a full year of ownership. This is a gritty, long-term look at what this car is actually like to live with long after that initial honeymoon phase wears off.
So, the big question we really need to answer in this explainer is this. Is the VW Virtus GT the ultimate daily driver, or does it eventually just become a daily frustration? When you spend 11,000 kilometers with a machine, sure, you learn its absolute best highlights, but you also discover all those hidden little quirks. We're going to weigh the romance of the drive against the hard reality of the daily grind.
Okay, Section 1. A stunning but quirky exterior. First impressions? Absolutely spot on. Volkswagen is famous for those clean, timeless designs, and the Virtus is honestly a masterclass in that exact philosophy. But they've spiced it up with the full GT treatment. We're talking sleek chrome accents, those really striking red touches, and just a great commanding presence on the road. But what really stands out is the practicality. It's got this high ground clearance that lets you effortlessly glide over obstacles that would normally have you wishing you bought an SUV. It's a sedan where you don't actually have to wince at every single speed bump.
But there's a catch. There is a visual trade-off to having that incredibly practical SUV-like ground clearance. It leaves this slightly ungainly gap between the tire and the top of the wheel arch. It's really the one oddity that kind of spoils the otherwise perfect, sleek proportions of the car. It definitely leaves you wondering, what a suspension lowering kit or maybe larger wheels fix the stance, even if it meant sacrificing that sweet, practical ride height.
Moving on to Section 2, the powertrain, Dr. Jekyll. 150 horsepower, sourced straight from Volkswagen's 1.5 TSI Evo engine. I mean, think about it. Not too long ago, pushing 150 horses out of a standard mid-sized family sedan was completely unheard of. No way. This is an absolute beauty of an engine that transforms the car into a total joy on the open road. It brings a massive amount of torque and power to a segment that's usually just focused on getting you from point A to point B. But hey, all that power doesn't mean much without a solid foundation, right? And man, the driving dynamics here perfectly complement that horsepower. Because you're sitting lower to the ground in a sedan, the center of gravity is really working in your favor. VW engineered this masterful chassis and suspension setup, and it results in almost zero body roll and superbly nice steering. It's so engaging that it literally tempts you into inventing the dumbest excuses just to go for a drive. Morning, night, weekends, you just want to drive it.
Which brings us to Section 3, the gearbox, Mr. Hyde.
So, out on the highway, the 1.5 TSI Evo engine is buttery smooth and powerful. But in the city, it's saddled with the 7-speed DQ200 DSG gearbox. And while a 7-speed DSG sounds fantastic on paper, this specific iteration is a major headache in stop-and-go traffic. It's slow to respond and notably clunky with its shifts at low speeds. It takes that smooth engine and basically makes it feel like a restless horse that's just constantly chomping at the bit. Actually, there's this really telling quote from the source material that hits the nail on the head. Every time the traffic lights go green, it's like launch control has been engaged. Just imagine dealing with that on your morning commute. That jerky, high-energy, low-speed shifting makes getting to work genuinely exhausting. The source even admitted that fighting this gearbox in city traffic can actually provoke you into a way more aggressive driving style than you'd normally have.
All right, Section 4, inside the cabin, highs and lows.
We all know VW for that solid, satisfying thud when you close the door, right? That classic German build quality. But the daily tech quirks in here? Honestly, they're a little bizarre. You've got windows that sometimes just stop halfway up, a wireless charger that randomly decides to take a break, Android Auto that literally disconnects every single time you honk the horn, which is a wild glitch, by the way, and a boot that refuses to stay open unless you force it and hold it there. Small things, sure, but they definitely chip away at that premium feel.
But then you sit in the driver's seat. As the review points out, the steering is just so simple and just so nice. All the buttons you need right here. The steering wheel is an absolute triumph. The quality of the leather, the perforated grips, the paddle shifters, and, thankfully, perfectly laid out physical buttons for your volume and cruise control. It is tactile perfection. But, and this is a big but,
we have to talk about what the source literally calls the unforgivable, the touch-sensitive AC sliders. Sure, they look super clean and futuristic when the car is parked, but using them while you're actually driving, an absolute nightmare. They are incredibly unpredictable. You jab at them not knowing if the AC is going to drop to 19 degrees or suddenly jump to 23. You physically have to take your eyes off the road just to change the air conditioning. It is a stark reminder that sometimes absolutely nothing beats a good old-fashioned clicky knob. Finally, Section 5, the final verdict. So what does this all mean for your wallet? The ownership economics are a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, you have a really pleasant surprise. Scheduled maintenance for this German performance sedan is surprisingly affordable. Huge win for VW there. But on the flip side, city fuel economy. Because that clunky DSG gearbox keeps the engine at high revs, and because these turbo engines are super sensitive to throttle inputs, driving this in bumper-to-bumper traffic absolutely tanks the efficiency. The source struggled to even hit double-digit fuel economy figures in the city. Ouch.
And yet, despite all of that, the single-digit fuel economy, the maddening AC sliders, the aggressive, jumpy city gearbox, the review ends with this quote, "What say Volkswagen? Another 6 months, pretty please." I think that perfectly captures the whole takeaway of this explainer. The Virtus DT is a deeply flawed daily driver, for sure, but it is such a lovable, dynamic driving machine that it genuinely leaves you wanting more. It wins your heart, even while it's actively testing your patience. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. In an era of perfectly sensible, boring commuter cars, is a little bit of daily frustration worth it for a car that actually makes you feel alive when you drive it?